Off-Road here. Got the axle out, gotta get the new axle in. So I was starting to clean off the diff cover. So I got a lot of grit and grime that was on that. Looks like the guy that had this before took a few hits. And clean the inside, clean that where I gotta clean the area where I'm gonna put the gasket on, and then kind of ground out some of this rust. But I started realizing I don't have a lot of time left. So, and plus this guy is probably going to get replaced anyway, because it's pretty thin. So I need to replace that with a beefier one. I mean, I'm surprised that already didn't even break through. So I was going to try to get this all painted and everything, but I don't know if I'm actually going to have time to do that. I got to get this thing in there and try to see where it sits. Hopefully everything sits. Never actually measured from center line to center line of the perches to see if they match up with that, assuming they will. But I have to get that in to make sure that all works, and then once that's in, I'm probably gonna grind down the welds on this, and then try to make a few passes myself. Try to heat up with the torch a little bit first, just so those are like super sure that they're on. But the goal today is to get that in, try to make sure it's in place, and then once that works, get the perches welded, and then start working on getting the brake lines hooked up. We have a brake line kit here with the stainless steel flex lines, hard lines to either side, and then I have a stainless flex line that I never put in for an extended rear line. Comes down from the line from the master cylinder. So I'm going to try to get that in. That's my goal for today. I want to get that stuff done, and then maybe worry about the other stuff later. I need to check to see if the flange on the pinion is just, this nut's just not tightened down the whole way. So I think once this is in, I'll be able to work something out to have this stop moving, so then I can torque this down. And hopefully that's all that is. Hopefully it's not the pinion. So that's the plan. I don't have a lot of time to work on this, so I'm gonna get going, hopefully get all this stuff done, and hopefully don't hit any hiccups. So it's Sunday right now. We have less than a week to get this all done. For some of you it seems like a lot of time, but with a full-time job and a kid and all that stuff, things don't, this doesn't take priority. So in the free time that I have, nights or mornings or whatever, before and after work, try to get at that. But we'll try to get this done. Fingers crossed it all works. Fingers crossed the drive shaft is gonna reach. That's the other thing that we have to figure out. Not reach, but make sure that the drive shaft has room to go, because the snout on that is further out than on the Dana 35. So that could be a problem. If that happens to be the case, then might have to look at just replacing the carrier and the spider gears on that. Get that in for this coming weekend. I don't know. Either way, I want to go wheeling, so we got to make something work in the time we have. So, all right, enough of me talking. Let's get working. Perch holes are on the center pins for either side. The shim's in, so the pinion is right now set up for what I believe is for double cardan drive shaft. But if I'm not doing that, this should actually be flat, I believe. So I don't know if I take these shims out, if that's really going to make that much better. But the guy that did this, man, it could just be, you know, things settling over time or whatever and moving, you know. But I had to just like tap the leaf spring over a little bit to get that to drop in the pin. And I don't know, from over here, I don't know if it's just the way the leaf springs are wore over time, but if this is the axle that's sitting in there right now, it almost looks like it's kicked off to this side. Looks like that side's like kicked out a little bit, so it's like, instead of being straight, it's like that a little. You would think this would be like parallel to what, you know, what I'm seeing, but it doesn't seem that way. But I don't know, I don't really have time for new perches, so I think I'm just gonna try to make it work, and hopefully everything will be fine once we get it all in and get it moving and everything. Hopefully it'll all be good. Maybe after all of this I might get the perches re-welded, because I might actually have to get my angle adjusted when I actually get my other drive shafts in. I think I'm going to take the center pins out of either side and maybe take the shims out and see about dropping that down. Okay, so the one thing that might be a problem, well, it is a problem, I don't have the flange adapter on, but the drive shaft, the slip yoke end is the whole way into the transfer case. Now, I do plan on doing the SYE, I have it, but I don't have my drive shafts cut down and balanced yet, so I can't do anything with that. So I have to make this work. So I wasn't sure what to do. I was going to take the shims out possibly, which would drop the pinion down a little bit, give it a little more room, but probably not enough. But my one buddy said maybe try just cutting the slip yoke down. So I have to get the flange adapter on and try to see what kind of room I'm working with. See if I can cut that bit of the drive shaft down enough so that it still stays in there engaged but doesn't go in too far and hit anything. Alrighty, so this is where we're at. Talking to my buddies, they said go ahead and take the shims out, which I did, and so then it dropped the pinion down a little bit and gave a little more room up there. I did put the flange adapter in, so I do have the correct length there. So I had to root through my bolt bin to try to find the right bolts. I got the right thread, but not length, so they're in there, but then I had to clamp it down to make sure that they're going to stay in the tight up to the flange. Took the shims out, had 7/8 of an inch from the end of the slip yoke to the outer edge of the seal off the output, and then my buddy said, why don't you go ahead and flip the shims backwards to drop the pinion angle down more. So I did, and now I lost 1/8 of an inch, and now it's at 3/4 of an inch sticking out. I'm gonna take the drive shaft out and cut some of the length off inside. I'm gonna cut some of the length of the drive shaft off that goes inside the transfer case, so that when this axle's moving and articulating, that it doesn't, you know, raise up and push that further inside there and mess anything up. It'd be nice if I had the right bolts, because I could bolt everything down and jack that up and see how far that actually goes in. The only thing is, if I cut the shaft that goes inside the transfer case, there's still the outside of the yoke that can hit the transfer case housing. So I don't know, you know, if there's any play in there, because that'll just go up and hit the seal a bunch of times. I don't know if it'll actually hit the housing or crack the housing or not. But I'd be curious to try to jack the axle up to see how much that actually moves up. Maybe it won't move all that much, but so maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try to get everything bolted in there, and then maybe just get these springs bolted down so then I can try to jack this axle up and see how much that'll go in. The springs are pretty stiff, so I'd think that, you know, once it gets to a certain point, it won't go in anymore unless these springs break, and then just boom, and just everything's done. I don't know. I'm not a professional. I don't know much about this. Just going off what I think could happen. Alright, so I bolted these on loosely, but on enough that there wasn't really any flex. I jacked the axle up, and it actually came up off the stands, but since the axle's a little off center, it lifted up a lot and the frame came off the jack stand. But I forgot to put it back into gear, and I didn't have the wheels chalked. So it started sliding back a little bit and pivoted on that jack stand, which none of that was good and not safe at all. But the axle was lifted up the whole way, so it was lifting off of the jack stands, and that side was actually starting to flex up this way, and there's only like maybe a ½ inch from the yoke to the lip of the output seal. So I think I might be alright with this. Hopefully it's going to be alright for one trip. Then once this is done, even if that housing gets destroyed, I have the SYE ready to go. So as long as it doesn't damage the rest of the transfer case, and if it does, I get a new transfer case. So like I said, this is getting thrown in. This is not how I wanted to do this, but I already paid for this ride. I really want to go to it. It seems like it's going to be a really fun one. So I'm rushing to get this in, and I just really want to go. So everything should be fine. Knock on wood. I think we're gonna run with that. So I have to get new centering pins for these because they're not actually flush on center right now, but I made sure they were before I bolted them up for this test. But I think I do want to clean the inside of that axle out because it was just really gross. So I'm gonna go ahead and simple green it really good, spray it all out, and then spray it down with some brake clean, try to really dry it all out. But after I get that done, I have to get centering pins, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get those today. But if I can at least get the axle cleaned out, and then what else do I need to do? Oh, actually, no. What I can do is I can grind down these welds and heat them up and do some passes on them, make sure they're really strong. So maybe we'll do that. Go ahead and unbolt everything, get the axle out, start working on that. Grinded down. Took me an hour and a half of straight grinding to get those terrible booger welds down. Let's just hope I can do a better job, which I think I can, because at a certain point he was just stacking weld on top of weld, and I don't think it was doing anything for the structural integrity of these perches. So I think it did a pretty good job getting all that weld, all that ground down. Just got to go ahead and weld it now.
Thanks for watching this video, guys. Be sure to like it. Tell me what you think in the comments. Click subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming projects and wheeling trips. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook to catch posts of videos in the making. See you next time.